Welcome to Hauntcore Vault. If you are ready for horror tales, you are in the right place. If you are new, please subscribe to the channel. I'd love to know where are you from and what time you are watching. Let's begin.
A good friend of mine told me this story years ago. He is the stereotypical old big bad trucker. I've seen some weird stuff with him while driving in South Texas along the border. He never batted an eye, but while telling me this story, he had goosebumps and a concerned expression, which from this guy is about the equivalent of a trembling lip and shit-stained pants. Years ago, in the late 90s, I was on my way from the house, Central Texas, heading to Laredo to pick up a load. It was early morning, around 4 or 5. I had just come off a string of days at home, so I know I wasn't tired. I am on one of those two-lane, winding roads in the absolute middle of bumfuck nowhere when I see something on the side of the road at the edge of my high beams. At first, I just thought it was roadkill, as is usually the case. As I get closer, I see that it is roadkill and there's someone crouching over the deer carcass. I remember thinking, either this guy's taking the antlers as a trophy, or he's fucking sick. As I got closer still, I can now see that's this guy's eating the fucking deer. He's pulling chunks of meat from the stomach and bringing them up to his face. At this point, he stops mid-motion and looks up at me. Not at my truck, but at me. It stands up, and that's when I see that it's fucking huge, brown, and covered in hair. I remember thinking at this point, oh fuck, this thing is standing on the tiny shoulder looking at me. By this point, maybe 3 seconds have passed, and I'm about to the point in the road he's standing at. I didn't even think of stopping. In fact, I'm starting to lay on it and get the hell out of there. As I'm passing it, it's looking at me. Again, not at the truck. It's looking through the driver's side windshield at me. He obviously has the intelligence to know that there's a driver in here and knows where I'm sitting. As I start to pass him, I can still see its head above the hood of an old needle-nose Pete. Old truck design where the hood goes straight out from the windshield, known for being tall and difficult to see around. This thing is fucking giant. I remember seeing what looked like human intelligence in its eyes. It scares the shit out of me. So, I was in the Virginia, Maryland area and had a lot of work-related sites, ranging from downtown Baltimore to Virginia Beach and all around. Friday wrapped up, and I hit the road to some social arrangements I had made for the weekend. Spent the weekend with friends out in various parts of Virginia, got dragged off to other places even further out, the usual weekend fun times. It's late Sunday night when I have to leave, or I'm not going to be able to get home in time to start my thankfully late afternoon Monday. I'm fully rested, I didn't do any drinking, I'm not into drugs. On the highway at about 3 a.m., in the middle of bumfuck nowhere between Roanoke and D.C., absolutely nobody around. I'm cruising along in the left lane simply because nobody else is around. No headlights for the past hour, no taillights either. No road lamps either. It's dark, it's mildly damp, it's foggy. I have the music up, I'm feeling good, all is fine. And then I just happen to look to the left, and there is a fucking dog barking at me. A German Shepherd, in a car passenger seat, somewhat blue glow from the instruments inside the car, and it's got its face to its window and it's barking its head off at me. I get a good hard look at it too, because at first my brain is not registering cop car, dummy. I'm doing 90 plus in a 75. I promptly have the oh shit moment when the dog, the instruments, the white crown light bar all click in my brain after a second hard look. I put my foot on the brakes and start slowing down hard but safe to pull over. I even put my blinker on to start shifting lanes over to the right to pull over because, wait, there is no shoulder on the left side of this road. I look back to my left, where there is still no shoulder room for another car, and it's just gone. No trace. I slammed my brakes and stopped in the middle of the fucking highway, flipped on all my light bars, and even looked around with my handheld spot. There was nothing. No taillights, no headlights, no engine sounds, nothing. There are no other tire marks in the damp but mine, and I can see for a nice long distance both ways, too. Nothing. My vehicle had great visibility and a lot of extra lighting, off-road SUV with the trimmings. There is no possible way somebody pulled a sneaky, let alone drove that fast on wet, sloped grass and rocks on my left side. My dad told me and my brothers this story when we were growing up, and it's always stuck with me, particularly on long drives when I'm feeling a bit sleepy. The first time I remember hearing it was after I asked him if angels were real. I was probably 7 or 8 yo. He drove trucks decades ago, before I was born, and before labor laws around limits and brakes were more standard. I'm assuming it's different now. He'd fairly regularly accept calls that would extend his shift to where he was driving 24, 36 hours or more without a break longer than a quick bathroom or fast food stop. My dad has a pretty mathematical brain. He's the type to make up logic puzzles out of something totally mundane just for fun. Whenever we were driving around town, he'd regularly ask me things like how long would it take us to get from home to the store if we were going 30 miles an hour but had to stop for 5 minutes in the middle because a family of kittens were crossing the road, etc. He'd come up with similar equations for himself while he was driving solo that involved things he was seeing, like the odometer, mileage markers, the time, and then he could test his speed based on the equation, etc. One night, after having already driven a particularly long day, he noticed his eyes getting droopier, and the whole roll down the window and blast the music up thing didn't seem to be helping much. It was a rainy night on a pretty windy mountain road without a shoulder to pull over safely. So he started doing those logic games out loud to keep alert and awake. He was saying something to the effect of, "I just passed mile marker 146, so what time will it be when I reach 200 if I'm going 55 miles an hour?" Then he closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and felt his head do the nod jerk thing, which woke him up with a gasp. He opened his eyes to see he was driving straight towards mile marker 158, which would have sent his whole truck tumbling down a random-ass mountain ravine. He was able to correct the course safely back, but it was a matter of seconds between that reality and certain death. He insists to this day that he slept through 12 miles of windy mountain road going 60+ miles an hour, only to wake up right at the last moment between life and death. The story usually ends with him tearing up, saying, "I don't know if there's angels, but I know there's something bigger going on in this universe than our human brains have been able to understand yet. If I wouldn't have woken up right when I did, you kids wouldn't be here today, and that's something that feels pretty close to spiritual." This is my father's story. And he wasn't a long-haul trucker, but rather a 18-year-old gas station attendant in the late 70s. And without a certain long-haul trucker, I probably wouldn't be here. The gas station was 24 hours, and my dad was the only one working the night shift, 11/7, I think. A guy comes in and just gives him the creeps. Seems sketchy. He was wearing tight jacket, pants, and you could tell he had something in his pants under the jacket. It was during the summer and was warm, so why is he wearing a jacket to begin with? It was later confirmed he was on drugs. A lot of truck drivers used this station as it was the only one open for a long stretch of the highway. They also had a big lot where they let truckers park and sleep or take a break. On this night, at this time, it was just my dad, sketchy dude, and one trucker in there. He kinda knew, as in came in frequent enough to be conversational, and asked if he'd stay in the station and hang out until sketchy dude left. Well, after looking at the stocked shelves for several minutes while sneaking peeks at my dad behind the counter, the sketchy guy eventually looked fed up and got into his blue car and sped off. Cool trucker guy hung out with my dad a little longer until another couple of guys came in to use the booths they had to eat a sandwich. I should also point out this was pretty middle-of-nowhere rural southeast United States and the 1970s. CB and landline was it. My dad only had a landline in the store. Dad did not have any protection or weapon of any kind. So the hours pass, and my dad had shaken off the paranoia when all of a sudden this truck driver guy in a car comes hauling ass into the lot, jumps out, and sprints into the store hollering he needs a phone. He didn't have a CB, nor did he see a phone at the other station. He also wasn't familiar with the area, and my dad's station was the first place he found. Calls 911 to report that he had walked in on a gas station 40 miles back, next closest station, to find the attendant shot and dead. No one else around. And the only other piece of information is that a blue car was speeding out of the lot when the trucker pulled in. Apparently, they eventually apprehend the guy in the blue car. My dad confirms it was sketchy dude from earlier in the night, and they charge him with murder and armed robbery. To the long-haul trucker who waited around with my dad that night, thanks, and hope you're keeping it real. Also worth adding that apparently sketchy guy in blue car was already a bad apple who was either being looked for or on probation or something. He was in the system.
I'm a territory manager, and my territory goes from New Mexico to Alabama and up to Kansas. So it's not uncommon for me to have to drive from Dallas, Texas to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and then from Albuquerque to Montgomery, Alabama, and then back to Dallas, all in 1 week. I've got a couple. I work for a premium off-road lighting company, so we work in the deserts at night a lot, usually with trophy truck and Ultra 4 race teams. Last year, I was coming home from King of the Hammers, and it was about 4:30 a.m., and I was on a state highway through the desert in southern New Mexico. If you've never driven it, you're basically as far away from anything out in the desert as you can possibly be. Impossibly straight, one-lane highways that stretch from hundreds of miles. I was awake and alert even though it was so late, and I was totally alone on the road and had been for hours. Suddenly, without warning, while I was trucking along, going about 80 miles an hour, the most insanely bright light came on right off my tailgate. It was so bright it lit up everything in the cab, and was so blinding. I thought one of our race teams had snuck up behind me or something, and turned on their light bars to scream with me. I drive a wrapped and branded distinct show truck, so it happens a lot. The light stayed on my ass for a good 30 seconds, and would stay right on my ass even when I'd swerve a bit or when I moved onto the shoulder a bit to see if they would pass. It was weird. It was like the light was bolted to the back of my truck or something. After about 30 seconds, I had enough, so I flipped on my rear-facing lights to give them a taste of their own medicine, and instantly the light behind me went off, and there was nothing whatsoever. Even though I was kinda blinded, I have some really powerful backup lights, and they came on the second the other light went out, so there is no way whatsoever another vehicle was behind me. And there was just wide open flat desert all around, so it's not like they could have pulled off and hidden, and I would have seen them anyways. Just nothing. I was totally freaked out, but I'm not an easy scare and very comfortable with being in the desert alone at night, so I pulled over, grabbed my knife and my flashlight, and had a look around. I shone my flashlight all around and even used some of my portable hyperspots. Again, I work for a lighting company and always carry around tons of demo lights to look all around me for anything. And there was nothing. No cars, no trucks, aircraft, UFOs, nothing at all except wide open, empty New Mexico desert.
My truck was totally fine, but I know I wasn't just seeing things, because the back of my truck was hot, like way hotter than normal. All the metal on the bedsides and tailgate was almost uncomfortable to the touch.
I am required to go from Texas to Idaho, and Texas to Indiana, and Texas to Ithaca, New York, regularly by van. My drives usually last 18-20 hours. Sometimes I have wildlife in my vehicle. Sometimes I'm on my way to pick an animal up. My job involves a lot of hands-on stuff. Driving is just the secondary of it. I probably book anywhere from 1,000 to 10,000 miles in a week. That being said, I have seen a lot of road. I have seen so much death from accidents, death from dumb mistakes. I've seen motorcyclists split into many pieces as they slide on the road. I've seen a bridge collapse on several cars. I've seen hitchhikers, stray animals, wildlife, car chases, fresh accidents, tornadoes, etc. I think you get it. There was one time, though, unlike anything else. I was on one of my shortest drives, but it was late in the night, 1 a.m. I had to be in Austin, Texas as soon as possible, as a citizen had found a bird that was incapacitated but alive in Houston, Texas. The bird had been sedated. I had to get it to this specialist as soon as possible, or it would surely die. Fortunately, the vet who specializes in this particular wildlife said she had to be up for surgery early anyways, and if I could make it up by 4 a.m., she would take it. The highway between Austin and Houston is called Highway 290. It has a few places where it forces you to stop, but there are a few places that are completely undeveloped and very, very dark. I wasn't tired. I was on high alert. After leaving the town of Page is a long stretch of very dark highway. No roadside lights, no development, just tree-lined 2-lanes highway going in both directions. I remember the highway kind of dips down shortly after that dark stretch and opens up to the highway system that can take you to Bastrop or San Marcos. It wasn't unusual to be alone out here. I should also note that I am an avid birdwatcher. In fact, it's my job to report sightings and behavior on a daily basis. Even at night when driving, I can spot a hawk or dove curtailing the power lines along the roads. At night, it wasn't unusual to see a deer or coyote pacing the outside or even the middle of the roads. This time, though, as my car dipped down the highway and the bridge to Bastrop came into sight, something came into view so big and white. I braked hard. My car jolted to a stop as the sheer vast white mass moved over me quickly. I could hear it whoosh. I don't know what came over me. I opened my window quickly, and the bird in the kennel behind me started making a horrible noise. I forgot to look out the window and looked behind me, and there inside the van was the sheer white mass with a huge beaked face and dark red eyes. I was in full panic. I couldn't move a muscle or make a sound. I was absolutely horrified to see what I saw. All while this little bird was letting out a horrible scream repeatedly. Mind you, it's supposed to be sedated. It was like a knife to my nerves and had cut all functionality. The white ghost-like creature appeared to wave its hand, and I felt my mouth open and let out a raspy scream. The white creature bolted right in my face. I literally peed a little right in my jeans, and my asshole clenched harder than a bank vault door. The creature moved past me and out of the front windshield. It turned back to look at my wide-eyed, frightened face and took off into the sky. This is the first time I've said anything about this. I still get shaken when I think about those dark eyes and the swiftness it moved into my sight. I've never seen anything like that again. It's been 6 years now. To this day is the only paranormal interaction I can truly say I've experienced. In the 90s, John was an IT guy in parts of eastern Iowa and far west Illinois. He was used to driving from one account to another, either late at night or early in the morning.
He'd pick a halfway point to use a rest stop and to grab one of those awful paper cup coffees from the machines while he was there. One early morning, about 4:30 a.m., he was in Iowa, and he stopped at a wide spot in the road rest stop. He parked, and there weren't any other people there except for a couple of semis who looked like they had been there for quite a while. He went into the men's room, and it was deserted. He used the bathroom and went to the sink to wash his hands. He said he caught some movement from the corner of his eye, and there was a very tall, very thin man standing right in the middle of the entrance, about 15 feet away. He was dressed all in black, and he says that the guy's eyes were pitch black. The man was giggling to himself, and John swore he was at least 8 feet tall. He glanced down to grab a paper towel from the machine, and when he looks up, this man is so close he can hear him breathing with a loud, bubbly sound. There's no way he could have crossed 15 feet in 1 second. As he told it, this thing slowly smiled at him, and it wasn't a smile. It was a baring of serrated, sharp teeth. And this thing starts chuckling like he's looking at a 3-piece KFC meal. My friend screams, "Jesus, help me!" and runs for his car. My friend says the thing is startled, like he wasn't supposed to be able to move. He felt like he should have been frozen, like staring at a snake. He runs to his car, which wasn't locked, slams the locks down, starts the car, and floors it getting out of there. As he's leaving, he looks in the rear view, and this thing is running after the car. He always swore somehow this thing followed him home. He was paralyzed in an accident not long after, and I went to care for him for a little while. I brought my 4-year-old son with me, and in his typical baby way, he would chatter away while the two of us were talking. I asked him one day who he was talking to. My son said, "He says his name is Biter, he has long teeth, and he lives with Mr. John." I grabbed my son and ran out of there. I never went back to that house. My older brother was driving me and my sister back from our biological parents' house back to our foster parents. They live a few cities away, so a long drive with lots of stops. We pulled into a gas station, and when we got out, for snacks, bathroom, etc., everything felt surreal. Like, as soon as we got out of the car, we didn't hear anything, no people, no cars, nothing. It was dead silent. We went inside and looked around for a bit before choosing some snacks. My sister went out for the bathroom, and when she came back, she tugged on my brother's jacket and said, "We have to go." My brother, obviously confused, "What? Hold on, I need to pay." And my sister just pulls him away, causing him to drop everything. He kinda got mad and pulled away, but when he turned around, she was out the door and sprinting towards the car. Me and my brother looked confused at each other. We agreed I would follow her and see if she was okay. From what she told me, she was definitely not. We've both seen some weird things before and are both understandably very wary of things around us. She told me that when going to the bathroom, she heard loud, scratching footsteps, like someone was dragging their feet with boats on. She ran into the bathroom, locked the door, and did her business. As she was about to open the door, she felt scared all of a sudden, and instead of opening it, she put her ear on the door and listened. There it was again, the dragging feet, and this time some huffing. She stayed in the bathroom until it stopped. She slightly opened the door, and seeing nothing, she bolted to the storefront and tried dragging us out. I decided I would help calm her down by bringing her to the bathroom and showing her no one was there. We got out the car, and I noticed my brother was paying, so we made it quick. We walked over near the bathrooms and I looked around. When I looked around the side of the building, I saw a small switchblade knife just on the dirt. It was opened and I could see the blade. It was shiny enough that I could see it clearly because of the back door light. I've never backpedaled so hard. We ran back to the car, my brother in tow. I didn't tell her what I saw until a few days later when she asked again. I was scared I would freak her out, so I didn't say anything immediately. Scariest thing that's happened to me and my sister up to date. We've had freaky things, but I think that was the first time it might have been a real person.